Now, like we said, most humans, most people, are only consciously aware of their body and their stuff. And they spend all of their time, or most of their time, focused on and identified with their body and the things around them, the stuff. Okay? And again, like we said, even with these two layers, they're only partially conscious. They experience thoughts and emotions, but even with those thoughts and emotions, they're mostly unconscious and compulsive. Okay? They are at the mercy of their thoughts and emotions. Now, let us proceed. Let us reveal the unconscious a little bit more. You see, some people have cultivated their awareness to the level whereby they are fully conscious and aware of their heart, mind, energy, body. And by the way, the heart, mind is another way of saying emotions and thoughts. Okay? Emotions and thoughts, the heart, mind. Some have mastered this so well so that they are in their control. Okay? They are no longer compulsive. They are no longer driven unconsciously by their thoughts and their emotions. Most humans today are at the mercy of their thoughts and emotions. They are driven unconsciously, compulsively by their thoughts and emotions. But it is possible to master these two powers. Okay? This particular energy body. It is possible to master it so that it serves you, so that your thoughts and emotions serve you instead of the other way around. And by the way, that does not come through suppression or denial. Suppression of your emotions or denial of your emotions or your thoughts is actually very unhealthy. That's how you create unconscious blocks, subconscious blocks. Okay? So we're not talking about suppression and denial here. There is another way, a masterful way. I'll give you a hint. One clue is mindfulness. Another clue could be meditation. But let's keep going. The next layer is the life force layer. So now we've looked at 4 layers, okay? Layer number 6, which is stuff, which is also known as Vastu. Layer number 5, which is the physical body. Layer number 4, which is the heart, mind, energy body, otherwise, known as the thoughts and emotions. Then you got the life force, otherwise known as prana. Most people know that they are alive, right? I mean, you're alive. I know I'm alive. But most people are unconscious of the life force that is that aliveness, their aliveness. They're unconscious of their aliveness. They barely feel the force beyond the simplified sense of, oh, I'm alive, or I feel well, or I feel sick, or I feel unwell, or I feel energetic, or I feel tired. So beyond these very sort of basic sensations of being alive, most people are actually unconscious to the vast properties and capabilities of the life force. Because the life force actually has so much capability, so many properties. It's incredible once you realize what is contained within you. But again, because of being unconscious, most people hardly even realize, beyond the fact that they feel a little bit energetic today, a little bit less energetic today, and so on. That is as much as they're aware of the life force. That is the level of their awareness. Okay. However, a few people have, awakened to and become conscious to this life force to the point whereby they can even consciously work with it at will. And through that ability to consciously work with prana, with the life force, they are able to do amazing things. Things that would seem to be miracles to the unconscious people. For example, I'll give you an example. Martial artists. Have you seen, maybe in real life or on television, not in a movie, but in, real martial artists, have you seen some of the amazing, incredible feats that they do? This happens because they are aware of and in control of the life force. At least to certain extents, they are. Okay? Another example is energy healers. There are certain people who, they will touch you and so on, and boom, you're healed. Other people like so-called miracle workers. We call them miracle workers because we don't understand what's going on. but we all know that miracles happen. Yeah, this is because of this life force. Okay, yogis, mystics, and even in movies such as Star Wars, you got the Jedi's. That is all referring to this life force, and so on. So there are people who we know for a fact that they tap into this life force and they're able to use it at a very deep and capable level. They all work more consciously and more deliberately and with more awareness of this life force layer, with prana, than the average person. The capability to do so is available to all human beings, to you as well, to everybody. But very few people even know it exists, let alone are able to use it. Okay? This is all unraveling the subconscious, and you'll see where this is getting to. It's a vast map. We're gonna open it all up, and you're gonna love it. You're gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna show you a picture of the subconscious that is far different from what you may have been led to believe it is, because a lot of people think the subconscious is just like in the mind or in the brain, and it is just the part of the brain that you cannot see. And they say weird things like, oh, the subconscious cannot tell the difference between imagination and the real thing. Which is kind of true, but it's not that it cannot tell the difference. The subconscious is super wise. It's just that imagination and the real thing are the one and the same thing, as you'll see. Okay? So it's not that the subconscious cannot tell the difference between imagination and the real thing. No, it's that the real thing and imagination are one and the same thing. But, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's unravel one more layer of the subconscious or the unconscious. Now, we have covered the staff layer or vastu, the physical body, the thoughts and feelings, or rather the energy, the heart, mind, energy, body. We've looked at life force and prana, and now we are looking at the transcendental void. Don't worry, we'll go back into each layer in a little bit more detail. Right now, just quickly giving you an overview. Now, if, for example, you are to meditate deep enough, or if you are able to otherwise achieve a great stillness within you, okay, even if you're not meditating, let's say you're just, you're so practiced that even just by standing on the streets, you're able to achieve a great level of stillness, similar to somebody who is in deep meditation, okay? Such that your awareness is no longer hooked on the stuff, hooked on the body, hooked on the thoughts and emotions, hooked on the life force. Let's say your awareness is clear of all disturbance and hook from these other layers. If you're aware of these other layers, but your awareness was not hooked by them, in other words, it was detached, it was not identified with any of these layers necessarily, it was not driven compulsively by them, then what would happen is you would notice what we call the void. The void is stillness itself. It is silence. It transcends all these other layers. It is what we call a peace that surpasses all understanding. It is unaffected by any and all phenomenon. It's beyond any and all phenomenon. That is why we call it the transcendent void. It lies right there inside you, but most people are completely unaware of its existence. They're completely oblivious of its existence. It is sitting right there, stable, undisturbed, unconditioned. It doesn't scream at you, hey, notice me. It doesn't. The way your thoughts and your feelings do, your emotions. Sorry, by the way, I'm going to keep using the words feelings and emotions interchangeably. Don't get caught up on what's the difference. Assume there's no difference. We're talking about emotions. If I say feelings or emotions, we're talking about emotions, okay? So anyways, the thoughts and emotions, they're always beckoning our attention. Sometimes they hook our attention that we even walk around like spaced out, like completely oblivious of what's going on. Especially when we're in dark mood, like when we've been captured by heavy dark emotions, like sadness or depression or anger. Sometimes we're not even able to notice what's going on around us. Okay, so this layer called the Transcendental Void, it doesn't do that. It doesn't have an agenda. It doesn't try and hook you. You can get stuck in it, but it's not going to try and hook you. Okay? It is just there, stable, chilled out, undisturbed, unconditioned. You know? It's an unconditional peace, a stillness. And it's not theoretical. People who meditate to that depth, they experience it. But we'll get there. We'll talk about that in a bit. Let's move on. Finally, we've gone to the mother of all layers. Okay? Consciousness itself. It sits right there. It's always part of you. But most of us are not even aware it's there. However, the fully awakened being, now we're starting to understand what awakening means, what enlightenment means when it's, when we look at it in terms of a map like this. The fully awakened being is fully aware of even consciousness itself. And this is what changes everything. Okay? Consciousness goes by many names, such as pure awareness, the source, the creator. You could even call it God, The point is, it is you. It is me. It is everything everywhere. It is the source from which everything arises. Okay? Now, some scientists mistakenly make the claim that consciousness arises from the brain's activity. You may have maybe even seen that on television, There's a lot of scientists who out there who are saying, when the brain has all these neurons and synapses, and when they fire, you have consciousness. No, it does not work like that. The brain is a biological tool that is created by consciousness. Yes, of course, if you put somebody in an MRI machine or whatever, any one of several scientific machines that are capable of measuring brain activity, you will see signals. And you will say, the signals are coming because of the brain synapses and neurons firing. And yeah, it's true, they're firing and there's signals. But that is not what creates consciousness. Consciousness was there without brain. You don't need a brain for consciousness. A jellyfish has consciousness. A tree has consciousness. It doesn't have a brain. A jellyfish doesn't have a brain. You see what I'm saying? So consciousness is the mother of everything, as we're about to see. Now, these 6 layers are nested within each other. What I mean is that they're not separate, We will talk about each layer in a bit more detail, but for now, just realize that these layers are nested within each other. They're intertwined. Just consider your own life, okay? And you will notice that these layers are nested within each other, even within your own life. Just look at yourself. Just notice that you have a body, you have thoughts and feelings, you have a life force, and all these other things. You have awareness. By the way, awareness is there because you have consciousness. Without consciousness, you will not be aware. So awareness is not something that is coming because you have a brain. And you'll see in a second why that is so. But anyways, what I'm trying to get you to sort of notice is that these layers are nested within each other. The idea that there's a separation between, let's say, the creator and the created, between you and the creator, or between, let's say, body and your thoughts, or, that you can get rid of certain thoughts and emotions and keep others, whatever, all these things, or that there's a separation between the stuff around you or your environment, your reality, and you and your thoughts and everything. All these separations are illusions. The illusion of separation comes from our ability to perceive. Like we have 5 senses, that's how we perceive things. It is the senses that give us that illusion that there's separation. It is not that the separation is not real. Okay? In the same way that when we look outside, we see a horizon, and the horizon looks like, the earth is flat, and when you reach the end, you'll fall off. We know that's not true. We know it's a circle, but perception makes it look like it's flat with an end. Do you see what I'm saying? When you look in the skies, the perception tells us that the sun arises, the sun is going around the earth. That's how it looks like. But we know that it's the other way around. It's the earth going around the sun. You see? So the separation is an illusion of perception. In effect, all these layers, all these 6 layers are one thing. Oneness. Every master you've ever heard of such as Jesus, Krishna, Buddha, and the many other ascended masters, and there have been thousands of them, by the way, have done great feats that, some of them we've heard of them, we've called them miracles or whatever, but most of them we've never heard of what they've done. But they have said, look, all these amazing miracles I'm doing, you shall do all this and more. And the reason why they say that, and the reason why they were able to do these amazing feats, is because they lived life fully awakened. They were fully aware and conscious of all these layers, and they used them. That is the power of a fully awakened being, human being. And this, I would like to suggest to you, this is the evolutionary path of humanity. This is our future. One day, many, many years from now, many generations from now, 100% of all human beings will be awakened beings, fully masterful. All human beings on the planet will be awakened. One day, that is the future. That is the evolutionary path. Evolution is not just physical. It's also mental, it's emotional, it's consciousness itself is evolving. Okay? And there's a path. And once we get there, we shall have what is known as the awakened planet, an ascended planet. That is an evolutionary plan for humanity. Absolute peace on earth. And by the way, when we get there, that is not the end game. That is the start. Okay? When we have an ascended planet, we will then begin the real work of humanity. Because today, although humans have evolved out of the purely animal stage, they're no longer just a beast like, other animals, okay? They have evolved beyond just being a beast, okay? We're still animals, but we've left that beast state of being, okay? However, we have not yet become fully human. You see, we are somewhere in the middle, somewhere in between beast and human. Okay, we are not yet fully human, and we're not just a beast. We are what you might want to think of as an immature human, not yet fully developed, not yet fully blossomed and flowered. Okay, not yet fully awakened. Most of us are asleep to one degree or another. There are very few fully awakened human beings on this planet, and I'm not claiming to be one of them, by the way. Let me just say that right now. I'm also in the unfolding process, just like you and I, you and everyone else, most people. There are very few fully awakened beings on this planet today. Very few, but they're there. Most humans are asleep to one degree or another, so it's just a degree in terms of differences. Okay. Now let's talk about suffering. Very important subject. Before we get out of this slide, let's talk about suffering. Now, we all wish to avoid suffering, right? Now, I would like to suggest to you that there's pain and there's suffering. Two different things. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is completely our own doing. Suffering is optional. Suffering is self-created. Now, what's the difference? Pain is physical. For example, when you bang your toe against the table or against the door as you're walking out, you feel pain, or in your toe, you bang your toe and you go, ouch, my toe. That is pain. It is inevitable. Even a master, when they bang their toe, will feel pain. Okay? And the good thing is that pain is there. It's designed to keep us alive, to make sure we won't put our hand in the fire. Imagine if there was no pain in our body. Do you know what we would do? We'd stick our hand in the fire. We would do weird stuff. Like, for example, look at what we do with the parts of our body where we don't feel all that much pain, like our earlobes. We pierce our earlobes and put earrings there. We pierce our nose and we put nose rings, Where we don't feel pain, we do stuff. Okay, now imagine if we didn't have pain. We'd be chopping up our body. We'd be doing a lot of damn stuff. We would destroy our body very quickly. So without pain, we would be dead in a day. And because it's not our intelligence necessarily that keeps us alive, keeps us from doing stupid things. What actually keeps us from doing stupid things is avoidance of pain. Even when most of us, when we try to exercise or to eat healthy, we're doing it because we are afraid of the pain of being unhealthy, you know? We want to avoid the potential pain of poor health, for example, okay? But the good thing is that, fortunately, pain rarely happens. Pain rarely happens. You can go through you can go through a whole day, sometimes even a whole week without feeling pain, sometimes even much of the year without feeling pain. But then suffering is different. For most people, suffering is way, way, way more frequent. And for some people, suffering happens every single day. Why? Because suffering arises from failing to perceive the whole being. You see these 6 layers? That is the whole being. I'm suggesting to you that suffering arises from failing to perceive the whole being. And this will become more and more clear and obvious as we go by. So, you don't have to accept it right now. I'm just suggesting it to you, and that you'll see how this is so as we keep going, okay? You'll see how that is so as we keep going. This failure to perceive the 6 layers and their hierarchy, to perceive the whole being, this failure comes when we excessively identify with one layer or just 2 layers and exclude the other layers. Remember the slide we just saw before, whereby we saw that most people are only consciously aware of their physical body and their stuff, and the rest is unconscious. Or maybe some are aware of their physical body, their stuff, and a little bit they have a conscious awareness of their thoughts and feelings. In other words, they're not going through the day daydreaming. They are going through part of the day daydreaming, and part of it they're quite aware of what their mind and their emotions are doing. But most people, to be honest, they're not even aware of what their mind and emotions are doing. They're sort of compulsively driven by it. So suffering comes from failing to perceive the whole being, all the 6 layers, consciously, and then excluding certain layers, okay? And for most people, they're identified with the mind, they're identified with the body, and they're identified with their stuff. And that is where suffering comes from. And we'll see why this causes suffering. But for now, let's just say that when our false mental concepts that keep us trapped in false identifications, with 1 or 2 or 3 layers, when these false identifications are dissolved, we will automatically find ourselves at the level of our true self, which has always been there and which will always be there. Okay? This is the process called awakening or enlightenment, and it is achieved through a process called surrendering, letting go. Now, for some people, they hear the word surrendering and they freak out. And you know why they freak out? Because surrendering involves letting go of those attachments. And by attachment, I don't mean getting rid of your stuff. I mean getting rid of the self-image that is so invested in 1 or 2 or 3 layers, such that the mere suggestion of letting go of that attachment, not the stuff itself, the attachment to the stuff or to whatever, to the self-image, that alone makes people freak out, because it feels like they're going to have to leave their comfort zone, and they will. Okay? The comfort zone is what makes us feel kind of safe, because we are familiar with it. So for example, if somebody is completely identified with their physical body and their stuff, and they are completely unaware of everything else, when you tell them to let go, they freak out, because although you're telling them, look, your life will actually get better, the first reaction is, hey, but you're asking me to leave my comfort zone. That doesn't sound good. And then you tell them, look, it's actually a good thing, and I can show it to you, but I do need you to let go of the handle. You're holding on too tight. You're holding on way too tight. Just please relax. You're not gonna lose anything, I promise you. But just let go of the handle. And they go, no way, man. So it's that fear of losing the comfort zone that makes the process of surrendering seem like a dangerous thing. But that's, again, it's just an illusion. It's actually not dangerous. Surrender makes you expand, but it feels like you're gonna die actually at first. And then it's kind of like jumping off a plane. You think you're gonna die, but once you jump off a plane and your parachute opens, you're like, wow, this is so much fun. This is so cool, So the funny thing is that surrendering actually feels like a loss, yet it results in massive gain. Okay? That's the amazing revelation that surrendering holds for you. You get to see more of your expanded being when you surrender identification with the small stuff, you know? So surrendering is what allows us to finally be able to distinguish between reality and the mental bullshit in our heads. You know, what we call illusions that we try to project onto reality. You know, that's the way to sort of let go of that crap in our head, is through surrender. And surrender is achieved through very simple things, such as mindfulness. That's it, you know. But anyways, we'll get into all that as we go on. For now, I want this course, I choose for this course to be more about the maps, because it's very important to understand, to see all the maps, so we can map our unconscious, you know. So we're gonna talk less about how to surrender and more about the maps. We can cover how to surrender in different courses, like that I'll give you as a bonus. I'll give you an entire course on radical mindfulness, for example, and others, and that'll help you with your surrendering and all that sort of stuff, you know, with your expansion. But the bulk of this course is going to be focused on the maps mostly. So that's another expectation that I want to set. Okay, cool. In any case, when we surrender our attachment with or identification with any one particular layer, we discover that our true nature lies hidden. It's always been there, but it has been veiled, it has been covered up, it has been hidden by ignorance, not by anything else, by our own ignorance. And that is good news, because this ignorance is driven by our own thoughts, you know, our own belief system, and also to an extent to our biology. Our biology itself is built to make us sort of focus on reality. That's part of the game of life, okay? But the good news is it's all in our control. So we can actually become conscious once we realize this, that ignorance can be transcended, that our five senses can be transcended. The conscious part increases, and the unconscious part decreases once we start to realize this. And that is a good work that we're doing here. Now, I'll explain more about this consciousness level and all the other levels, but first let us define a few more terms before we move on, so we can better understand these layers.